It is now my great pleasure to introduce today's commencement speaker. In the face of a very messy world, I wanted to choose a speaker who embodies what this School of Public Policy is about. Someone who has been in the arena, who has taken on the toughest of problems, who has conceived and presented solutions, and who has led. I also wanted someone who inspires. Today's speaker has inspired me as a colleague and a global citizen for many, many years. Jane Holl Lute. Jane has an extraordinary range of experience as a policymaker in the United States and the international sphere. She is currently the Special Coordinator on improving the United Nations response to sexual exploitation and abuse. Lute also serves concurrently as the Special Advisor to the Secretary General on the relocation of Camp Haria residents outside of Iraq. Prior to rejoining the UN, Dr. Lute served as Deputy Secretary for the Department of Homeland Security and the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for Internet Security, an independent nonprofit with a mission to lead the global community to a secure cyber future. Dr. Lute has also previously served as Assistant Secretary General for Peacekeeping, responsible for the comprehensive on-the-ground support to all UN peace operations worldwide. From 2007 to 2008, she established and led the Department of Field Support as Acting Undersecretary General. Dr. Lute served on the National Security Council staff under both President George H.W. Bush and President William Jefferson Clinton, and had a distinguished career in the United States Army, including service in the Gulf during Operation Desert Storm. She has a PhD in political science from Stanford University and a JD from Georgetown University. Jane, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So I went to college in the 70s, and I did my graduate work at Stanford. I'm taking the hat off. Well, thanks very much, Bob Orr. I can't think of anyone in my professional career that I admire more than Bob. He also has done it all. And he's done it with a caring and a commitment to his colleagues and now to you that you should never take for granted. He's an extraordinary human being who thinks very large and then puts his own hands to work on those large ideals. So thank you, Dean Orr. I'd also like to thank Dean Joyce, Dean Powers, Dean Harris, and Dean Savia. And I'd also like to thank the faculty here, many of whom I know personally, but many of whom also have inspired me over the course of my own career. And these are giants in our field: Thomas Schelling, Catherine Kelleher, the late John Steinbrunner, Mac Dessler, Susan, as Bob mentioned, and others here on this stage. And I promised myself anytime I got an opportunity to talk at a commencement, I would thank my doctor father, Alexander George, another giant in American political science, and other teachers that I have had along the way: David Hamburg, the president of Carnegie Corporation of New York, Brent Scowcroft, national security advisor to presidents, and so much more, Cy Vance, the former Secretary of State. I've had the privilege and opportunity to work up close and personal with all of these individuals. And what they taught me about policymaking was not nearly as important as what they taught me about being kind. They taught me that you can be in this business and you can be kind. I don't always act like I understand that, but I have learned that message and I've never forgotten it. When we were backstage, Bob said to the graduates, "Jane Lute is the embodiment of you." I am so very sorry. If that's the case, I can tell you on May 20th, 2041, you will be up at 3:20 in the morning taking your child to ice skating practice. You will lock yourself out of your house as you're racing to give a commencement address. at the request of an honored colleague and friend. But I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about exactly what Bob said, the kind of world you're going into now in this phase of your careers, and how to think about policy and the role of government. What might all of this mean for you over the next 25 years? Can you make a difference? Can you even make a dent? And how will you know? 25 years from now, what do you want to see when you look back to know that yours was a life well lived? What kind of world are you entering? Is it really different than any that has gone on before? Is it messier? Is it more unpredictable, uncertain, unbalanced, digital, disrupted, dangerous? How different is different? For people who are 25 today, you were roughly born in 1991. Yeah, the Berlin Wall had fallen, the Soviet Union had collapsed, the Gulf War came and went, and we were beginning NATO expansion, which would ultimately nearly double the size of that institution. If you were 25 in 1991, you were born roughly in 1966. France pulled out of NATO. Vietnam troop levels were just beginning to peak and go on a major upswing, and the global population was 3.4 billion. And people who were 25 in 1966 were born roughly in 1941. Pearl Harbor. The US population was 133 million. Who was in charge in 1941? Franklin Roosevelt was 59 years old. Churchill was 67. Stalin was 63. Truman was 57. Hitler was 52. Who wasn't in charge? Ho Chi Minh, he was 51. Mao Zedong, 48. Ronald Reagan was 30. Nelson Mandela was 23. Pope Francis was 5. Why am I telling you all this? Look around. Look at each other. Hey, you never know. So what makes today so unsettling? Is it the violence? Is it extraordinary social progress? Scientific or medical discovery? Thank God the people who are studying the brain believe that they are living in their renaissance. I'm like, amen. Good for you. Keep it up. We're happy that you are. The geneticists, the cancer progress, it's extraordinary. Is what characterizes our age the economic trials that we're facing? Or is it that our politics is making this period of time feel different than anything else? One thing certainly feels different, it's digital technology, access to the internet, and let me focus on that for a minute. Because why? How big is the impact of digital technology? How big is the impact of on the internet in our lives? There is no enterprise in today's marketplace that delivers value without relying on IT and access to the internet. You've heard it all before. It's possible today. I mean, Uber is the world's largest taxi company with no cars, Airbnb, the world's biggest hotel with no real estate, and Alibaba, one of the largest retailers on the planet with no inventory. It's only possible because of the digital explosion that we've experienced. And how should we make sense of it? I mean, perhaps it's important to look at two powerful trends as you enter the next phase of your policy careers. And one trend, in my view, is a trend of growth, another, a trend of decay, but both of them together are fundamentally altering how we look at power, wealth, social progress, violence, politics, governance, and perhaps even geography. First, the trend of growth, and it's what I call the global cyber awakening. In 1995, there were 16 million people online, and 80% of them were English-speaking North Americans. Today, there are over 3 billion, with a B, billion people online and growing at the rate, some say, of 100 connections a minute. People are finding information and each other with ever greater ease. This is truly a global cyber awakening, which is the social consequences of the ongoing, organic, and nearly instantaneous expansion of the internet. And as people find that they can easily and reliably connect to information and to community, we are seeing in aggregate greater social confidence and political empowerment emerging among publics everywhere. And no government quite knows what to do about it. For a global population that is already healthier, wealthier, more educated, more aware, and more mobile than at any time in history, The implications can hardly be overstated. We're coping with new ideas and new ways of doing business every day, even new economic models. If our traditional socioeconomic model is rooted in the family, Facebook is making a compelling case that maybe it should be rooted in the friendship. And Google clearly holds the view that it should be rooted in you. With all that data and information circulating around the globe, we, or somebody, has come to know an awful lot about people. But what we know about people, we know mostly as consumers, not as citizens. Our understanding of people as consumers far outstrips our understanding of them as citizens. And this distinction is important. For example, in things like cybersecurity, because citizens typically demand security, and as consumers, so far, we have not. So as an early challenge in your career, you have to find the important questions and the important problems to solve. Again, to draw on the world of cyber, there's a lot of blah, blah, blah. I call it B3. Don't laugh, there's a B5 and a B7. You've been in those conversations. Blah, 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 blah. You just look at each other and go, B7. So I think there are only 3 interesting questions when it comes to cyber and the world we live in. Question 1, how do we architect systems we can trust from components we can't? Question 2, how do we ensure the integrity of our identity and our information while preserving an open internet? And question number 3, what will the role of government be? This last one is particularly tough because what, after all, what, if anything, are governments good for? I'm resisting the temptation to laugh myself, but we have to fundamentally ask that question because no one interacts with government unless they have to. So what is your theory of the case when it comes to government and when it comes to good governance? Governments are good for delivering threshold conditions of security, well-being, and justice. The rest, as we say in my religious tradition, is commentary. And governments particularly think of themselves as security specialists, but they're not. In cyberspace, why not? Because it's not clear that governments have the power that matters in cyberspace. Governments dominate security in the physical world because they're the only ones with legitimate, consolidated control over lethality. They have the power to protect us. But in cyberspace, it's the power to connect us, not the power to protect us, that constitutes real power, and you will run out of fingers before you get to the first government when you're counting out powerful actors in cyberspace. So you are entering the public sector today. You are entering this phase in your career precisely at a time when the core value proposition of the public sector is up for serious discussion. And this brings me to the trend of decay. What is decaying? What has decayed? There is a near total collapse of trust in public sector institutions worldwide. We don't trust anything. We don't trust banks. We don't trust the business. We don't trust media. We don't trust the markets. Many of us don't trust governments. We don't trust iconic institutions, and we're angry about it. Everywhere, people are angry, and you can see it. But this is a very particular kind of anger. This is not purpose-driven anger. When people have purpose-driven anger, they kill each other. This is anxiety-based anger. And what's that anxiety based on? It's based on the fundamental realization, I think, that we may no longer know how to architect trusted institutions in public space. The weight-bearing capacity of our public institutions is very much in doubt. We're seeing problems for which there are no answers. ISIS can do something that no government on the planet can do. It can draw young people from everywhere who will go anywhere because those young people feel as though they belong nowhere. And we have no answer. You must help us find that answer. Powerful norms have emerged over the past 100 years. Norms of inclusivity, nothing about me without me. Norms of transparency, norms of reciprocity, and norms of accountability. And yet, the politics we see in the world today fight our sensibilities every day. We say we want inclusivity, yet the politics of exclusion are roaring to the forefront. We say we want to have transparency, yet we all insist on a right to privacy and the ability to keep you out. We say we want reciprocity, yet our markets and our other competitive spaces reward first movers, and the powerful still sit in the pole positions. And we say we want accountability, yet global governance, interdependence, and all of the things that make our societies vibrant and complex today rail against that norm. We have to reconcile our politics with our ideas, and you must help us. Can you make a difference? Where should you start? Well, the number one rule for a successful career in this business is the same rule for a successful marriage. Remind them every day why they're lucky to have you. We have another rule in the Lute household. You get to tell me what to do or how to do it, not both. It's a rule to live by. Live every day the little things. Stand when people enter a room. Say please and thank you very often. Learn another language well. Keep something to write with you at all times. If any of you need my help, my phone number is, and you don't have anything to write with. And always 2 spaces after a period. Okay, just kidding. I'm just kidding. Right? But also be mindful of the big things. Treat the important people in your life like they're important. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You will get ideas when you have none and direction when you feel lost from the most unlikely places when you say, "Can you please help me?" Understand respect. I used to ask audiences, how many of you are people that, like, we have to earn your respect? How many of you, work in the workplace as if people have to earn your respect? I don't ask that question anymore because a lot of people raise their hand, okay? And I don't believe that people should have to earn respect. Human beings deserve respect. Human beings deserve respect. They shouldn't have to earn respect. Let them earn your affection, earn your loyalty, earn your undying gratitude, but not your respect. Human beings deserve respect. Lift them up. Lift them up. And in the words of that famous orator, Leslie Odom Jr., okay, he plays Raymond Burr in Hamilton, said, "Walk toward the things that make you alive. Decide how you want to spend your time. Walk toward the things that make you alive. And take a stand." G.H. Hardy, the famous mathematician, once said, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, "It's not worth an intelligent person's time to be in the majority. By definition, there are already enough people doing that." Take a stand. How will you know that you're succeeding? You won't always. You won't. You have to find the voices that you can trust to help you with this. Whatever you do, don't ever believe your press. Frankly, you're never that good or that bad. And just when you think you have arrived, that you are important enough because you're working at the White House, I'm in the governor's office, I'm on the secretary's plane, I have an office on the E-ring, or gotta go, 38th floor is calling. Put that next phone call you get through to your inbox. Just lay the phone in your inbox, because that's what people probably are calling, not you. So don't ever need it. Always be able to walk away. And when you get that feeling that people are only talking to you because of your issues or your access, remember the important people in your life. If you take my advice, they will always be there for you. So where will you find yourself in 5, 10, or 25 years? Okay, look, I don't know either. But don't limit yourself to what you can imagine at this moment. Magic is going to happen. You're going to witness history in the making. You are going to stand shoulder to shoulder with greatness, and you will bear unspeakable pain. And what will you learn? You'll learn that your parents were often right, that hard work does pay off, and that the respect and admiration of valued colleagues can carry you a very, very long way, and that none of it compares to "Mama, you're home." Now, as your dean did, I would like you to begin this phase of your careers in the way that I guarantee you will end it, by standing and turning around and thanking the people who made this moment possible. And I thank you all very much and wish you the best of success.
Dr. Lute, could I invite you back for 1 second? We would like to show our appreciation for that amazing discussion with a gift that includes, yes, a turtle. And Dr. Lute, I learned something else today. I learned what a B7 was. That was a Y7. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes.